Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Rajesh Govindraj. Okay, I'll be taking this geography part of this analysis. So overall, so how many of you have written? इस बार कौन से लिखे हैं? Any of you have written? So no, not here. ठीक है. I hope many of you are watching online. ठीक है. So have you guys seen this paper? Okay, कैसे लगा? How is your opinion? What is your opinion? How do you feel? Easy, difficult, जो भी है. Overall paper 1 बताइए. Moderate. Okay, moderate. So were the question predictable? Predictable type था. ठीक है. तो ठीक है. So wherever there is some predictable question, that means there is a scope for scoring. अच्छा सा scoring हो सकता है. And the areas were predictable. It was not that difficult, but few of the questions are slightly twisted. Okay, areas are predictable, slightly twisted. For example, Deccan Traps, you might have seen, it's a big trap. So we'll talk about that. So overall, our opinion is that the paper has been slightly easier compared to the previous years. Okay, particularly paper 1, and this may be scoring for those who prepared well. Okay, जो अच्छे से prepare किया है उनके लिए scoring है. I'll show you the analysis, so you yourself can come to conclusion why it is so, why it is scoring. ठीक है. अगर थोड़ा बहुत ऐसे average preparation में लिखा है तो so then it becomes slightly difficult, क्योंकि तो competition जो अच्छे से पढ़ के आए हैं तो उनके वजह से तो थोड़ा बहुत तो पुश होगा, कट ऑफ तो पुश होगा, जिसके वजह से. So before I start with the analysis, let me tell you overall what is the idea of this session. So here we are going to give you the analysis of this entire paper, paper 1, and we'll give you some brief comparison with respect to the previous pattern. Overall previous pattern में कैसे था, so how the trend has changed in this year and what to expect in the future, okay, for the next year. This is the overall idea. So most probably 3 categories of students would be watching this. First, who gave mains this year. So whoever is watching, whoever gave this mains, I wish you all the best for the result. अभी तो time है, काफी time है. You have done your best. So take some time off, take a break, but please come back and start your interview preparation without much delay. Okay, this is the time usually just people waste in the anticipation of the interview result, but जब interview call आएगा तो बहुत ज़्यादा time नहीं बचेगा, because interview preparation is not something which you do it overnight. Okay, so which you have to inculcate the practice of talking, you know, the communicating and working on your hobbies which you might have written. So all of this is the time to do that, and this is the most entertaining, jovial phase of your preparation. कि बहुत सारे इंटरेस्टिंग चीज़ें कर सकते हो related to your the hobbies, extracurriculars, as well as like in terms of communication, talking to people and talking to the interview mock boards. All of this, it's going to be really fun. So those whoever has given this. And second category is those who have given few attempts earlier and who could not clear prelims this year, and they want to see how exactly they want to improvise. And third category is those who are going to give fresh for the first time next year के लिए जो fresh देने वाले हैं. So both for second and third category, this is going to be more helpful. This session is going to be more helpful, क्योंकि जो already लिख लिया है just for just overall analysis, they can see this. Okay, उससे पता चल जाएगा whether they whatever they had written was right, what is the interpretation of the answers, all of the questions are all of this. So but for you guys, whoever is watching this, for in order to prepare for the next year, okay, this is going to be very, very useful. कैसे? Because first of all, you will understand whether whatever you have prepared till now is sufficient to answer these questions or not. Okay, whether your sources are sufficient to answer these questions or not, or you have to read anything else, और कुछ sources refer करना है नहीं करना है. Okay, ये चीज़ें पहले पता चलेगा. दूसरा, just because you have the sources, it is not going to guarantee that you will be able to write. How exactly the questions have been asked, in what nature it was asked, or whether it is a simple and direct question, or it is a slightly applied manner, where you have to read and decode the question and try to understand the question, then write the answer. So what is the nature of the question, and what is the difficulty level, and what difficulty? Okay, you might have studied about most of the concepts related to geography, but किस depth में पढ़ना है, or whether NCERT में जो दिया है वो काफ़ी है, नहीं काफ़ी है, और कुछ पढ़ना है, and how to score better in this pattern. Okay, there would be few things which you have to understand, so how to make your answer stand apart from the rest of the others. So to understand all of this, it's very important that you understand this year's paper. So फिर पता चलेगा, then we can prepare accordingly for the next year, so that you are 100% prepared. Fine. That is the overall idea of this session. Let me start with the basics beginning. Okay, so I hope all of you know that still. So overall, this is part of paper 1. Paper 1 we have here, General Studies paper 1, Indian Heritage and Culture, okay, History, Geography of World and Society. Okay, so this is, we can divide into different parts. Geography part ho gaya, society ek ho gaya, then art and culture, modern history as well as post-independence as well as the world history. So in this, the geography portion I have highlighted here, okay, the salient features, the distribution of key natural resources and the geophysical phenomena, and this is your geography topics. So overall, geography has 3 major topics as given in the syllabus. The first one is salient features of world physical geography. Salient features of world physical geography. Second one is distribution of key natural resources across the world. Okay, first one, the physical geography of world. Second one is key natural resources across the world, including South Asia as well as India, and the factors responsible for the location of primary, secondary, tertiary sector industries. So this we can say they are talking about economic activities. So that is what is primary, secondary, tertiary, right? So primary includes agriculture, mining, secondary includes manufacturing, tertiary includes the trade, transportation, the services, all of this, that is tertiary. So all of this we can put under economic activity, which we can separate it from the natural resources. Resource का अलग ही questions आता है, economic activities का अलग ही आता है, including agriculture we can put it in natural resources. Sorry, economic activity. So third part is very interesting. You can see important geophysical phenomena such as earthquake, tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, etc. Geographical features and their locational changes in critical geographical features, including water bodies and ice caps, and the flora and fauna and the effect of such changes. So I usually emphasize this part because this is already part of your physical geography. Okay, can you see this? ये जो geophysical phenomena बोल के अलग सा syllabus में दिया है. This is not, I have not written this. This is what is given in the syllabus. So why this is given separately in the syllabus? इसको क्यों अलग किया है? This is much more important. Even though this is part of the physical geography itself, they are currently relevant. They are currently important. Okay, they are in news for various purposes. Disasters हो गया, or climate change, global warming, or various changes which are happening on the landscape in terms of glacier melting. Okay, the outburst of floods, all of these, the changes which are happening in the current and due to the climate change, all of these are here. That is what we call it as geophysical phenomena. This is part of your physical geography only. But here you won't be reading this separately because anyway this is part of physical geography. But wherever you see these topics in the physical geography, you have to give more importance here, in-depth analysis, in-depth पढ़ना है. So usually 8 questions रहते हैं. 8 questions में 1 or 2 question ऐसा होता है कि बहुत technical आएगा. Geography में ऐसा होता ही है, like it always happens. 1 or 2 questions are always too technical and too deep. That is here. Even this year question on color coded cyclone, है ना? So cyclone warning color coded, that is from here only. So always usually one in-depth question will be there. एक बार आया था mantle plume. Okay, mantle plume का question आया था, वो तो NCERT में ही नहीं दिया. It's not there in NCERT. So people are shocked. ऐसे कैसे आ गया? Okay, even we were shocked, है ना? But still, that is part of your this topic. Okay, geophysical phenomena, which is a very important area which you have to cover. And there, that is the part of your physical geography. Okay, overall we can classify, I'm talking about the mains. Overall we can classify the mains portion under 4 headings. Okay, 4 headings. So one is Number 1, physical geography. So just to understand, let's separate this geophysical phenomena as number 2, just to understand how much of the weightage should be giving. And the third part is natural resources, and the fourth part is economic activities. This is our fourth part, right? This is our fourth part. So, okay, for now keep it aside. This is the overall syllabus. Let me just tell you about the weightage. So, in terms of total marks in General Studies paper 1, it has been consistently, you can see, it has been consistently around 100 marks since last 10 years. अभी 2022 10 साल खत्म हो गया, जो नया सिलेबस चेंज हुआ था 2013 में. And geography is the one major part of paper 1. We can say the entire general studies का जो भी paper में one of the highest and consistent level it has maintained. 100 marks. In some of the times it has gone up to 115. ठीक है? The highest in general studies paper 1 as well as in most of the general studies कोई भी paper ले लो, इसी का ही सबसे ज़्यादा weightage है. And it has been consistently high. There is not much of variation at all. ऐसा नहीं कि एक बार 30 आ गया, एक बार 100 है. It's always 100. ठीक है? And 1 or 2 questions related to society, sometimes it get mixed with the geography. Geography theme related आता है. कभी कभी urbanization के ऊपर आएगा, है ना? कभी कभी the smart city वाला last year वाला question जो आया था, that is also related to geography. Fine. So, but core geography you can see there are 100 marks. This year also there were 100 marks. Total of 8 questions. Total of 8 questions. It has been consistently high. That makes it largest. And since the paper was slightly predictable, okay, the themes were slightly predictable, that also makes geography very scoring. उसको पूरा scoring भी बना देता है. This is our entire total 8 questions. Just for overview, I'll take each of these separately. Okay, let me just give you the overview of these questions. The first 4 questions are 10 markers. Okay, you can see 10 markers 4 question, and then 15 markers 4 question. Okay, so and इसका ऐसे पेपर में भी पूरा एग्जैक्ट एज इट इज है. देखो नंबर 4, 5, 6, 7 हो गया, 14, 15, 16, 17 हो गया. ये उसके बाद में so 8, 9, 10 इज सोसाइटी, 18, 19, 10, 20 इज ऑल्सो सोसाइटी. उसके पहले आर्ट एंड कल्चर मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री वाला क्वेश्चन था. फाइन. सो दीज 4 क्वेश्चन विच आर 10 मार्कर. लेट मी जस्ट शो. Describe the characteristic and types of primary rocks. The question was on primary rocks. Okay, and each question I have given 2 more observation. One is which belongs to which section and what is the nature of this. Okay, just try to observe. Section तो मैंने बता दिया. There are 4 sections: physical geography, geophysical phenomena, natural resources, and then economic activity. Okay, even though 1 and 2 is part of the same section, but just for our understanding, let's just separate it. Okay, primary rocks के ऊपर question. This is part of your core physical geography. Okay, which unit? Geomorphology. Geomorphology में ही आता है. Okay, this is your part of physical geography. Second one, discuss the meaning of color-coded weather warnings for cyclone-prone areas given by IMD. Okay, color-coded warning for cyclone. This is part of your geophysical phenomena. Geophysical phenomena. ये देखो cyclone का clearly mentioned है. कहाँ पर है? Cyclone. Right? And third one, discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Trap. Okay, question on natural resources, natural resource potential of Deccan Trap. And the fourth one, examine the potential of wind energy in India and explain the reasons for their limited spatial spread. Okay, this is also natural resource because energy is part of the resource. Energy resource. This is your natural resource ka hi question hai. Okay, 15 marker, there are 4 questions. First one, the forces that influence the ocean currents and describe their role in the fishing industry in the world. Okay, this is majorly physical geography. Even though this is part of economic geography also, the factors which we are talking about is majorly physical. This is more oriented towards physical. अगर ठीक से ocean currents पढ़ लिया तो you can easily answer. Okay, that is why I will put it under physical geography only. Describing the distribution of rubber producing countries indicate the major environmental issues faced. Rubber production comes under industry. Industry comes under economic activity. Okay, this is rubber industry. And mention the significance of straits and isthmus in international trade. Even though strait isthmus is part of your physical geography, but here we are talking about economic activity. Okay, the question is not about what are strait, what are isthmus. उसका मतलब ये नहीं समझाना है. You have to talk about what is their significance, importance. Fine. That's why it is economic activity वाला question है. Okay, जो tertiary activity आता है, trade comes under tertiary, right? So then how troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer that determines weather process. It is part of your physical geography. ठीक है, 8 questions हो गया. Fine. So I have given one more classification here, nature. So what do you mean by nature? Nature is the type of question. So in a specific topic, when a question is asked, geography में particularly you can expect 4 type of question. It can be a 4 type of question. एक ही question को 4 तरीके में पूछ सकते हैं. So one is totally static and basic. Static and basic का मतलब है यहाँ पर कोई application का काम ही नहीं है. Whatever you read in the textbook, you just write it here. Static and basic, you don't have to think and make your own answer. There is a standard set answer here. Whatever you have read in the textbook or notes material, you can just write it here. That is what is static basic. Second, static and applied. Static and applied. So here there is no fixed answer. There is no conventional answer. There is no set standard of answer. Based on whatever you have read from the textbook or the notes material, you have to frame the answer then and there by understanding the demand of the question. By understanding the demand of the question, you have to make the answer. Okay, so you can clearly see, describe the characteristics and types of primary rock. Primary rock क्या है, उसका types क्या है, characteristics क्या है, it is all there in the textbook. जो पढ़ा है यहाँ पर वही लिखना है. Okay, static and applied, discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Traps. Because you don't specifically read about Deccan Traps everywhere, you would have studied about Deccan Traps and you would have studied about the overall natural resource potential of India under different headings. Water resource हो गया, मिनरल रिसोर्स हो गया, एनर्जी रिसोर्स हो गया, ऐसे पढ़ा होगा. अभी उसको एक आंसर में फ्रेम करना है, स्पेसिफिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट डेक्कन ट्रैप्स. दैट इज व्हाई इट इज स्टैटिक है बट अप्लाइड. फाइन. द थर्ड वन इज स्टैटिक एंड करंट अफेयर्स. इट इज अ मिक्सचर ऑफ बोथ, some part of conventional geography which you read from the textbook and some part which you study from current affairs magazines or newspapers. That is what is static and current affairs. Example, ये जो wind energy के बारे में क्वेश्चन था ना. So this was currently in news. You would have read about few of the things. Overall potential क्या है? What is the status? How much of the wind energy is there in India? Which states are there? So some of the things you would have read as a part of your static geography, some part of as your current affairs. That is static and current affairs. And fourth one is totally current affairs. You wouldn't read about this in the traditional geography. Traditional geography में नहीं पढ़ते हो. This is totally from the current affairs magazine or newspaper. 4 type of question. Clear? Static basic, static applied, static plus current affairs, and totally current affairs. 4 type of question. I'll give you the analysis. If you go by section wise, you can see this is till here 2013 से 2021 तक जो number of questions पूछा है based on different sections. Okay, till here there are total of 75 question in 9 years. In 75 question you can see, so maximum questions were asked from geophysical phenomena. Geophysical phenomena. So then comes natural resources, then comes economic activity, then the rest of physical geography. Even though geophysical phenomena is part of your physical geography, we are just trying to separate. वो जो third heading में जो दिया था ना, उसका significance को दिखाने के लिए, this is the highest weightage, because they are most probably they are the ones which are currently in news. They are the important in terms of disaster management. They are the important in terms of the administration, general administration, human management. सबके लिए वही चाहिए. That is why maximum weightage is given here. Till now यही था trend. The highest weightage you can see they have divided 40% of the questions were from geophysical phenomena, then natural resources, and then economic activity, then the rest of the physical geography. This is till now. Till now. This year you can see more number of questions were asked from physical geography. Okay, so out of 8, 3 questions are from physical geography, 2 questions from natural resources, 2 questions from economic activity. There is only 1 question from geophysical phenomena, that was on cyclones. So that is why I said this is scoring. Static है. अगर geophysical phenomena के ऊपर ज़्यादा question आ गया, the question would have gone slightly more deeper, in depth, and application oriented, because they are currently in news. Okay, something which you don't read about them in very regular manner from the textbooks. है ना? That is why it is more of static type of paper. From geography section at least I am talking about. So there are more questions coming from the traditional physical geography. 3 questions are from traditional physical geography, only 1 question from geophysical phenomena, 2 question natural resources, 2 question economic activity. Okay, this is in terms of weightage. This is in terms of nature. So till now the trend was that again the maximum number of questions were asked from static portion. You can see geography में सबसे ज़्यादा जो static है उनमें से almost half of them is static applied and half of them is static and basic. Overall, if you take the entire weightage, 3/4 of the questions in geography are totally static in type. There was lesser role for current affairs. Okay, मतलब current, of course current से news में inspired होगा. They will not be asking what is the current news. Okay, so the questions will be inspired from the current affairs. Of course, UPSC in most of the questions they are inspired from the current affairs. But here in geography, they will ask directly what is the static part. Either directly from the textbook, or you will have to frame the answer as per the demand of the question. Indirect questions. This is the maximum weightage, and there is very less part of direct current affairs and some part which is a mix of static and current affairs. This has been the trend till now, and this year you can see static basic has been more. That is directly from the textbook. 3 out of 8 is directly from the textbook. You can directly write the answer if you're prepared thoroughly. And 2 more questions, even though static, applied. थोड़ा सा पढ़ लिया तो भी आप सोच के लिख सकते हो. 5 out of 8 is totally static. And 2 questions are mix of static and current affairs. Some reading of current affairs and some static portion will be left. And there's only 1 question which is directly current affairs. So that is our cyclone. So that has made the entire geography slightly static, conventional, and direct as well as scoring. Okay, let's hope that this trend continues next year also. So if you have prepared geography well. Okay, so overall there is slight deviation, other than the trend follows the same. Slight deviation in terms of moving towards static part as well as moving towards most basic concepts of geography. So rest everything almost remains the same. Okay, so let me discuss the questions one by one, and at the end I'll tell you about the sources. Whether the sources, the traditional sources, are they sufficient or not, I'll tell about that. For each question I'll tell about that in the end. Okay. So let me just discuss about these questions one by one. So any doubts? All clear till now? Okay, good. Question number 4. Describe the characteristics and types of rocks, primary rocks. Okay, type of primary rocks. So talking about, okay, for every question you try to see whether it was in news. So rocks के बारे में तो ऐसे कोई specifically news नहीं था. So it is totally the static part of geography. And there has been no previous questions in the last 10 years at all on rocks. Specifically on rock, this is the first time UPSC has asked specifically on rocks. This is one of the most basic topic which you read in geomorphology, the beginning part of geography, the physical geography. So it is clearly given in NCERT में तो directly दिया, and in fact it's there in GC Leong also. That would be sufficient to answer this. And the question is pretty simple and direct. There is no previous question, no news, nothing. It's the direct question. Okay, this is your overall structure of this answer. Describe the characteristics and type of primary rocks. Every answer you need to remember that you have to write an introduction. Okay, introduction to hona hi chahiye. So here in this answer you can start with defining what is rock and what is a primary rock. Okay, that is important because the question talks only about the primary rock. You should not write secondary rock, that is sedimentary, metamorphic rock. ये दूसरी rocks का यहाँ पर बात नहीं करना है. This is a 10 mark. There is enough content for this 10 mark. Okay, if you are bringing other type of rocks, it means that you have not understood the concept. That evaluator will tend to think that you don't know. That's why you are writing this. You should be very clear about this, that you should write only about the primary rocks. First of all, what is a rock? Rock is a naturally occurring aggregate of minerals. Naturally occurring aggregate of minerals in a solid form. That is what is rock. Okay, so the entire earth is rocks. It is everywhere it is rock. The surface layer and the below, the mantle, crust, everywhere it is rocks only, right? So overall we have 3 types of rocks: igneous rock, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. Igneous rocks are the ones which are called as the primary rocks. Why? Why they are called as the primary rocks? They are the ones which are formed directly from magma. They are the ones which are formed directly from magma. It is from these rocks the other type of rocks are generated. And igneous rocks undergo change in the pressure and temperature and becomes a metamorphic rock. An igneous rock undergoes weathering, breakdown, transportation, sedimentation, and that becomes a sedimentary rock. So these are the primary of all. This is the original rocks. So that is why these are called as the primary rocks. Igneous rocks are called as primary rocks. What do you mean by igneous? Fire. Okay. Igneous means fire. So that is the definition which you have to write here. What is a rock? What is a primary rock? Then directly come to the characteristics, because the question says describe the characteristics. You have to describe. What is describe? A detailed explanation is called as describe. Okay, where you give the overall picture. Okay, here you have to give the overall picture. Of course, you cannot draw any of these rocks. यहाँ पर तो figure का कोई, there is no scope for it. Okay, because you cannot identify the different rocks just by figures. So what are the characteristics of primary rocks? The first, they are directly formed from magma. Okay, magma से कैसे बनते हैं? How they are formed from magma? By cooling of magma. When magma is generated from the earth's interior, it is very hot and volatile. When it comes to the surface, it cools down because the temperature is low, and because of the lower temperature, it starts to solidify. And that solidified form is called as igneous rock. Okay, it is formed by the cooling of magma. That is your first characteristic. Okay. So when the magma starts to solidify, the various different minerals and the mineral groups within the magma will start to crystallize. The presence of crystals is another important characteristic of igneous rocks. You can clearly see crystals. Okay, the size of the crystal depends upon the rate of cooling. The size of the crystals which you see depends upon the rate of cooling. If it is cooling faster, it becomes a very fine crystals. It appears in a glassy texture. It becomes very fine. If it is slow cooling, it becomes large crystals, big size crystals, more crystalline structure is clearly visible. So the rate of cooling of magma decides the crystalline structure, but overall it is crystalline in nature. Okay, second characteristic. थोड़ा सा elaborate करना है. Third, the igneous rocks are totally devoid of any kind of fossils. What are fossils? Fossils are these remnants of the life which existed earlier, which are preserved in the rock layers. They are most commonly found in sedimentary rocks. Here you will not find them. Why? They are directly coming from the magma. It is coming from the cooling of magma. Magma तो बहुत अंदर से आता है, and there is no life at all. So that is directly formed from magma. So there are no fossils here. You will not find any kind of fossils. Next, the presence of strata, layers. You don't find any kind of layers in igneous rocks. This is also the characteristic of sedimentary rocks. Why? Because it is solidified in a massive form. बड़ा size का होता है. In whatever the shape the magma has cooled down in terms of sheets or in terms of big batholiths or lopolith or laccolith. Okay, that is how it takes the shape of it. You will not find them in solid layer form. That is strata नहीं मिलेगा. ठीक है? So these are some of the characteristics, and also most important characteristic is the increased amount of silica. Silica content ज़्यादा रहता है igneous rocks में. So now depending upon the silica content, we'll classify them. We'll come to the next heading. So you have to describe these brief characteristics of all of this with a very brief explanation, 1 or 2 lines. Just that would be sufficient in the second part. The third part, types of primary rocks. Okay, of course ये सारा figures तो नहीं लिखेगा. This is just for your explanation. So majorly the igneous rocks are classified into 2 types based on where exactly the magma is cooling down. The magma which is coming from below, if it is cooling within the rock layers of lithosphere. Lithosphere is a very cool layer. Compared to the mantle and asthenosphere, it is a very cool layer. तो यहाँ पर आते ही cool down हो सकता है. If the magma is cooling down within the rock layers of lithosphere, it is called as intrusive igneous rock. It is called as intrusive, intrusive rocks. Right? If the magma is cooling above the surface due to the eruption of magma, it is called as extrusive. It is called as extrusive igneous rocks. Intrusive, extrusive. We have 2 major types of igneous rocks: intrusive igneous rocks, extrusive igneous rocks. What are they? One cooled by the magma below the surface within the rock layers. One above the surface, above the rock layers. Okay, बाहर निकल के आए. Intrusive igneous rocks are also called as plutonic rocks. Extrusive igneous rocks are also called as volcanic rocks. They are also called as volcanic rocks because bahar nikla hai. So now here comes the major difference. When magma cools down below the surface, it cools down slowly. There is no rapid cooling. When magma cools down very slowly, it takes crystalline form. The crystals are very clearly visible. They are large in size and they are very clearly visible. That is what is the most important characteristic of intrusive igneous rocks. Best example is granite. I hope many of you would have seen granite. Granite में तो बड़ा बड़ा crystals बहुत clearly दिखता है ना. This is what is granite. In case of extrusive igneous rocks, because of rapid cooling, it takes a glassy texture. Very fine glassy texture. That is what is basalt. Basalt का surface layer तो बहुत glassy रहता है. And you don't find much large crystals because of rapid cooling. The rate of cooling decides the texture. That differentiates the intrusive and extrusive igneous rocks. And at the same time, the rate of cooling also decides the strength of the rocks. One which cools down slower, that is very hard. है ना? Slow and steady wins the race. One which cools down slower is very hard. And one which cools down faster, that is not very hard. Okay, it's not very hard, it is brittle. We don't use basalt for flooring. We use granite for flooring. Why? Because it is very, very hard. That is another difference between intrusive igneous rocks and extrusive igneous rocks. Intrusive ones are very, very strong. Extrusive ones are not very strong. Usko tod ke hum mix kar dete hain, है ना? We will use it in construction purpose, but not for flooring. Fine. And this is one major category of intrusive igneous rocks. Sorry, igneous rocks, intrusive and extrusive. You can stop the answer here, or if you want to add some more, there is also another way of classifying igneous rocks based on the silica content. Okay, igneous rocks, they contain a good amount of silica. I told you, if the silica content is more than 66%, it is called as acidic rocks. It is also a type of igneous rock. Acidic rock bolte, है ना? If the silica content is less than 52%, it is called as basic rock. Beach mein to intermediate rocks. Okay, so if it is more than 66%, it is acidic rock. Less than 52%, it is basic rock. In between, intermediate rock. ठीक है? So intrusive igneous में मैंने example दिया था granite. Extrusive में example था basalt. Granite is acidic. Basalt is basic. यहाँ पर भी same example लिख सकते हो. But there are few intrusive igneous rocks which are basic also. Okay, that is gabbro. There are few acidic rocks which is slightly acidic, not completely acidic, slightly acidic, but still extrusive. Andesite. Okay, these are some of the examples. अगर इतना लिख दिया तो पूरा खुश हो जाएंगे evaluator. Okay, this is a totally traditional static type of question. Geography, traditional geography से directly question मिल जाएगा. बहुत सालों ऐसे हो गया था कि ऐसे direct question आ गया. Okay, this is what is granite. This is basalt. This is gabbro, which is intrusive. बहुत नीचे form होता है. And rhyolite is also extrusive. Okay, and there is also andesite. Examples are also important. You need to write. Here there is no scope for figure or map. So no need to worry about that, but examples are important here. That is how you score the answer. You score the marks here. So is that clear? Any doubts here? Intrusive काफी. So this is where actually general study students will score more than optional students. Okay, so when a very technical question is asked, optional students so बहुत खुश हो जाता है, तो खुशी में और ज़्यादा लिख देते हैं, बहुत सारा technical लिख देते हैं, so that is counterproductive. Okay, you should limit. This is general studies. ठीक है? So next question. Discuss the meaning of color-coded weather warning for cyclone-prone areas given by Indian Meteorological Department (IMD). Okay. So in fact, even we were also surprised to see this question because it is more of part of disaster management. I would say it is more suitable in disaster management section. So of course there would be one question which is related to disaster. in geography section, but usually that question would talk about the disaster as such rather than management. मैनेजमेंट, डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट एस्पेक्ट के ऊपर यूजुअली क्वेश्चन आता है डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट पेपर 3 में जो सेक्शन है, बट यहाँ पर डायरेक्टली मैनेजमेंट के ऊपर ही क्वेश्चन आ गया. ठीक है. सो इज देयर इन न्यूज, वाज इट इन न्यूज? यस, डेफिनेटली इट वाज इन न्यूज. ओके, सो साइक्लोन तो हर साल होते हैं, एंड दिस ईयर एज वेल एज लास्ट ईयर इट वाज इन न्यूज बिकॉज ऑफ द फ्रीक्वेंट वार्निंग, एंड IMD is trying to make it more popular. These color coded warning, so they are trying to publish in various different newspaper and also बहुत frequently coastal region में तो बहुत frequently ये announce होता है color coded warning of IMD. ठीक है, so you can clearly see, ये तो clearly था कि मई 2021 का न्यूज़ में है. Okay, so how IMD's color coded warning system works, totally direct from the current affairs. Okay, we won't be reading this in this detailed manner as part of geography. Okay, because geography we majorly restrict ourselves to the concepts and the traditional part of it. This is totally from current affairs. Okay, and were there any previous questions related to cyclone? Definitely, there were 2 questions. In 2013, there was a question on the naming system. Okay, cyclone naming system. It was asked in 2013. Okay, 2014, there was a question on the conditions required for the formation of tropical cyclones. Why tropical cyclones are restricted, largely confined to few of the seas only. So here you should explain about the overall, the conditions required for the formation of tropical cyclones. So this was totally static question. This is also like current related aspect, and the present question is also current related. That is because the section where the cyclone comes under geophysical phenomena, which is majorly current related. So जो भी जियोफिजिकल फिनोमेना वाले क्वेश्चन में जो भी टॉपिक्स आता है ना, उसको थोड़ा सा और ध्यान में रखो करंट अफेयर्स में जो भी न्यूज़ आएगा. ओके, एनी न्यूज़ ऑन अर्थक्वेक्स, एनी न्यूज़ ऑन वॉल्केनिज्म और द सुनामी और साइक्लोन और ग्लेशियर मेल्टिंग, क्लाउड बर्स्ट, ऑल ऑफ दीज प्लीज कीप योर आइज एंड ईयर्स ओपन. सो फॉर एनी करंट न्यूज़, एनीथिंग, ओके, एनी करंट न्यूज़, द क्वेश्चन कैन कम इन पेपर 1. याद रखो. So here it is the question on color coded weather warning. So what is the overall structure for this question? So you can start with what is tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclone का मतलब क्या है? Very brief introduction, that would be sufficient. You can start with the definition. Then the second part should talk about what are these color codes. Okay, so because the question is pretty direct, यहाँ पर तो कोई analysis का ज़रूरी नहीं है. The meaning of color coded weather warning for cyclone prone areas. What is the meaning of it? उसी का ही एक्सप्लेन करना है, एंड ए ब्रीफ कंक्लूजन टॉकिंग अबाउट व्हाई इट इज नेसेसरी, व्हाट इज द ओवरऑल आइडिया ऑफ दिस कलर कोडिंग. इससे काम हो जाएगा. ठीक है, एंड इट इज अ वेरी वेरी टेक्निकल क्वेश्चन. यू कैन नॉट मेक योर ओन कलर कोड्स हियर, विच मेनी ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स वुड हैव डन, बट वहाँ पर तो थोड़ा इससे नुकसान ही ज़्यादा होगा, बिकॉज द एवेल्यूएटर विल क्लियरली आइडेंटिफाई, ओके इनको पता ही नहीं है, ऐसे ही लिख रहे हैं. सो देन दैट इमोशन विल कैरी फॉरवर्ड. आगे वाला क्वेश्चन में भी ऐसे ही सोचते हैं, ये भी पता नहीं है. So please avoid such thing. When the question comes too technical, अगर नहीं पता है, बिल्कुल नहीं पता है, तो प्लीज़ छोड़ दो. That too in geography type of question. कि जो सोसाइटी में लिख सकते हो, थोड़ा बहुत आप कोरिलेट कर सकते हो, whatever you have seen in the surrounding. But in geography, very technical question. Please, if you don't know, please don't make your own answers here. So first of all, what is a tropical cyclone? Tropical cyclone क्या होता है? Tropical cyclone is a low pressure depression. है ना? It's a low pressure area within the tropical region. Within the tropical region, wherever there is a low pressure area, particularly over the ocean, it intensifies and develops into a huge system of clouds, precipitation, thunderstorms, all of them caused by the low pressure. Low pressure के वजह से ही होता है. Okay, of course, all of you would have heard or seen or experienced. Okay, some of you at least would have experienced the cyclones. है ना? तो ये तो कॉमन है ट्रॉपिकल रीजन में. इंडिया इज मोस्ट अफेक्टेड बाय ट्रॉपिकल साइक्लोन्स. ठीक है, सो ट्रॉपिकल साइक्लोन्स आर बेसिकली लो प्रेशर डिप्रेशन, लो प्रेशर सिस्टम डेवलप्ड विद इन द ट्रॉपिकल रीजन ओवर द ओशंस. दे डेवलप ओनली ओवर द ओशंस, नॉट ओवर द कॉन्टिनेंट्स. एंड दीज सिस्टम्स इंटेंसिफाई to attain very high wind speed, and a very high amount of precipitation is caused because of that. It causes a huge destruction, and cyclone is considered as a disaster. It's considered as a natural disaster, which we cannot stop. We just have to be prepared to face it. That is what is cyclone. Okay, that is your introduction. Second, so you should directly come to the color code. यहाँ पर तो कोई कहानी बनाने का ज़रूरी नहीं है. We should not talk about the conditions required for the formation of cyclone. Cyclone का impacts क्या होगा, ये सब कहानी बनाओ ही मत. Directly question पे आने. So what are the color codes? So basically color codes, these are the codes used by IMD for giving warning. Okay, there are 4 color codes. बहुत simple है. बहुत simple इसलिए रखा है कि like the common man should understand this. Okay, there are 4 color codes. It's not only in India. In fact, this is universal. This is as per WMO standards. World Meteorological Organization के standard के हिसाब से ही बनाए हैं. Okay, there are 4 color codes you can see. One is, it begins with green. Second stage is yellow. Third stage is, in India we use orange. Okay, we don't call it as amber. Third stage is orange. And fourth one is red. Okay, there are 4 color codes. And it indicates the intensity of damage we are going to face due to cyclone. Indicates the intensity of damage which we are going to face due to cyclones. What causes damage during cyclone? It is wind as well as precipitation. Wind as well as precipitation. दोनों मिला के यहाँ पर warning मिलेगा. How intense the winds and the precipitation is going to be. That is this warning. So yellow means no warning. उसका heading है no warning. Okay, you should write ऐसा एक simple सा table बना के. Yellow no warning. Green be aware. Sorry, green is no warning. Yellow is no be aware. Orange is be prepared. Red is take action. Okay, so these are the 4 color codes. इसका ऐसे simple सा बगल में एक 4 simple सा yellow, orange, green, yellow, orange, red. उसके बगल में what is the meaning of this? So that should be clearly written and a very brief explanation. Very brief explanation. Okay, इस side में. So what do you mean by this? See, whenever there is a cyclone approaching the coastal areas, okay, whenever a cyclone is approaching the coastal area, it causes huge damage in terms of wind, in terms of precipitation. Okay, so the people have to be prepared for that because we cannot do anything other than preparing. We cannot stop the cyclone. We cannot divert the cyclone. इतना तो टेक्नोलॉजी हमारे पास नहीं है, तो कभी आएगा भी नहीं, बहुत मुश्किल है ना. So best example जो हमारा ओडिशा है, the Odisha state, they have done a wonderful job. They have done a wonderful job in making the people prepared for cyclone. 1999 super cyclone, it came, it caused devastation in the entire state of Odisha. Okay, the people died in large number, property were lost, everything was lost. So now before last year there was a super cyclone. It's not even a single death. Okay, so Odisha has set an example how a disaster should be handled. So not by trying to stop, वो तो नहीं हो पाते, वो तो समझना है हमें, by making the people ready. And this is a very important tool in making the people ready. Fine. So green is no warning. मतलब ठीक है, थोड़ा सा बारिश हो सकता है, no need to worry. Okay, just be alert, no need to worry. That is what is green. So yellow is be aware. So be aware मतलब basically you need to be ready. If there's any such thing is going to happen, if any bad weather is going to happen, just be aware. Okay, try to watch the news and try to keep yourself updated with the news. That is what is be aware. It doesn't mean that the damage is going to happen or it is happening right now. That is just be aware. Okay, just be aware. Orange is be prepared. Be prepared doesn't mean that it is going to cause a damage to life. There may be damage to infrastructure, electricity जा सकता है ना, transportation disrupt हो सकता है, but it is not going to cause damage to life. When there is a threat of damage to life, that is what is take action. You have to totally take action, be underground, go to shelter homes. Okay, so don't stay in the vulnerable areas. Okay, if you are in a old buildings, there is a chances that it might collapse. So move to the safer locations. So all of this, that is what is take action. That is the meaning of this. पहले color होना चाहिए, उसका meaning होना चाहिए, then brief description. Fine. Starting from green, yellow, orange and red. So this is the meaning of color code. How exactly it is announced by IMD using a matrix. Like this. For example, here you can see on a particular cyclone, so it was announced. Okay, coastal Tamil Nadu, Puducherry का क्या status है, Kerala का क्या status है, and southern Andhra Pradesh का what is the status about this. Okay, this is for next 4 days. So right now on this day, coastal Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, it is showing green. No need to worry, no warning. It is expected that on the next day it may turn into yellow. This is the prediction. and on the subsequent 2 days there is a chance of very heavy precipitation, okay, thunderstorm, lightning, wind, okay, so you have to take action then. केरला में देखो अभी ग्रीन है, देन नेक्स्ट 2 दिन के लिए येलो है, फिर बाद में ग्रीन हो जाएगा, दैट मीन्स नो नीड टू वरी अबाउट हियर, ओके. आंध्र प्रदेश कोस्ट ग्रीन, येलो, देन अगेन ग्रीन. So major issue is in Tamil Nadu after 2 days. इसे clearly पता चल जाता है. You just have to know the meaning of these color codes. It is very easy to interpret. So IMD issues using a matrix for the next few days and for few of the regions. That is how it is issued for the public. ठीक है? So different codes and the meaning and what measures to be taken. क्या करना है? ठीक है. Conclusion में you can write about overall idea of why do we need this color code, because for disaster management to keep the people ready, it will be easier if you mobilize if there's going to be huge destruction, people are ready, and even the community itself will come forward and they can mobilize the overall community and their overall loss is reduced. And for the entire disaster management purpose, these codes are going to be very, very useful. And another thing, this is not something very specific to cyclone alone. The same color codes are used for heavy rainfall as well as for flooding. It is not something specific to cyclone. It is universal for all the disasters related to the rains. Okay, rain related जो भी disaster है, सारा इसमें यही code use करते हैं. Heavy cloud burst हो गया या thunderstorms हो गया. So recently 2 दिन पहले दिल्ली में तो red warning आ गया था suddenly, because suddenly the clouds approached, they issued a red warning. Okay, जब 2 दिन पहले जब बहुत सारा continuously बारिश हुआ था, that time it was yellow warning, like that. Okay, it is issued even in the normal case also. So that's about your color coded warning. So any doubts here? So next question, discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Traps. Discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Trap. Already मैंने बता दिया, this was a trap. The question itself was a trap. Okay. So first of all, coming to the news, there is no news, such news specifically about Deccan Traps. ये तो geography का ही core part है. So specifically इसके ऊपर तो कोई question नहीं था. And previous question, if you're talking about previous question, of course there was no specific question about Deccan Traps, but this kind of question was there. Natural resource potential of a particular region. Last year आया था पेट्रोलियम के ऊपर आया था, ओवरऑल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन, नेचुरल रिसोर्स डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कैसे था, उसकी वजह से क्या इम्पैक्ट है. जैसे नेचुरल रिसोर्स तो यूजुअली क्वेश्चन आता है, लाइक यूजुअली यू विल एक्सपेक्ट one or 2 questions on natural resources, and particularly about a distribution, overall what are the extent of natural resources, which type of resources are available. So like this you can always expect a question, but there was no specific question about Deccan Trap nor a specific question about the distribution of resources within the Deccan Trap. ठीक है. So now the answer here should talk about, begin with the introduction about Deccan Traps. Okay, what are Deccan Traps? Then overall describe the resource potential, natural resource potential of Deccan Traps, and give a brief conclusion. These 3 parts should be there in this answer, supported by a map. This is must. You write a map here, you will get an extra mark. Okay, you have to show which are the regions which are under Deccan Traps. Definitely there is a scope for it. The first part, what are Deccan Traps? Deccan Trap is a region in India where huge quantity of basaltic magma eruption happened around 65 million years ago. Around 65 million years ago, there was a huge quantity of basaltic magma eruption happened here. So why? Because Indian plate was moving towards the Eurasian plate. Earlier it was part of Gondwana land. Before that it was part of Pangaea. So when Pangea was there, all the continents were merged together. Okay, North America, South America, Eurasia, Africa, सब कुछ मिला था. So then it got separated into Angara land, Gondwana land. India was part of Gondwana land. It was merged with Madagascar as well as Africa. साथ में जुड़ा था. So when all these continents started to move apart, they started to separate. India also got separated and it started to move towards Eurasia. Okay, let me show any of this map. So earlier India was somewhere here. Okay, so this was the position of Africa. Here it was Madagascar and here it was India. ऐसे था. When India got separated, it started to move towards Eurasia. When it was moving towards Eurasia, at one point of time, it was lying somewhere here, around 65 million years ago. And here comes the reunion hotspot. Reunion hotspot, which resulted in the eruption of huge quantity of basaltic magma, because hotspots are fueled by mantle plumes. Hotspots are fueled by mantle plumes. Mantle plumes come from the lower part of mantle. It generates only basaltic magma. Okay, it generates majorly basaltic magma. Basaltic magma is generated due to the mantle plumes. And it continuously is erupting. Abhi bhi wo hotspot hai hi hai. There is also another important hotspot, Hawaii Islands. Okay, there also the same kind of eruption is happening. When Indian plate was lying exactly over reunion hotspot, there is huge quantity of eruption. And that eruption of Deccan lava created a huge plateau, which is what we call it as the Deccan Plateau. Commonly it is called as Deccan Plateau because वहाँ पर already plateau था. Plateau के ऊपर eruption हुआ है. And that layer of eruption is called as Deccan Traps. The layer of eruption of basaltic magma over the plateau is called as Deccan Traps. So presently it covers. So तब था. So when it was here, it was there. Then gradually India moved here. Then the entire hotspot is still over there. Just the Indian plate moved forward and it became inactive. Eruption stopped that time itself. It became inactive. But the magma which erupted, that is still there. Abhi bhi hai. And it has formed this huge layer. This is what we call it as Deccan Traps. So what are the regions where Deccan Traps are presently found? Maharashtra, majorly Maharashtra, northern Karnataka, Saurashtra, Gujarat, then western Madhya Pradesh. Okay, western Madhya Pradesh, this entire region, it's under Deccan Traps. So this is your introduction with a simple map. So now comes to the main part. What is the natural resource potential of Deccan Traps? So here comes the actual tricky part. So the question is specifically talking about Deccan Traps. It's not about Deccan Plateau. If the question comes specifically about Deccan Plateau ka bare mein baat hua, to you can write about all the minerals. Deccan Plateau is very rich in minerals. You will find iron, manganese, uranium, limestone, dolomite, and even diamond also. Vindhyan Formation, Panna, as well as Golconda, they are diamond bearing. But not all of these are part of Deccan Traps. Deccan Traps are very specific geological formations. Geology option hai to kisi ko ye pata hai. Or even geography, some of you would have read about this. So you cannot write about Deccan Plateau. Many of you would have written about Deccan Plateau. वहाँ पर थोड़ा सा गलत हो सकता है. If UPSC is going to be very liberal, then it may be considered. But otherwise, if it goes very technically, specifically, so this will be wrong. You have to talk only about the Deccan Trap formation. What is Deccan Traps known for? Black soil. Black soil ही है major natural resource potential यहाँ का. ठीक है? Other than black soil, there is not much of other valuable minerals which are found here. Okay, so उसके नीचे plateau है. There are Deccan Traps. Deccan Traps कहाँ पर है? If you talk about the entire plateau, we take the horizontal cross section. If this was the plateau Indian plate, इसके ऊपर ऐसे eruption हुआ है. It is just the top layer which has formed the Deccan Traps. So इसके नीचे यहाँ पर mineral हो सकता है, but that will not become part of the Deccan Traps, right? Technically तो ये तो नहीं होना चाहिए. So it may contain iron, it may contain uranium. Recently यहाँ पर petroleum भी explore हुआ है. All of that belonging to earlier formation, but not Deccan Trap. So what are the important natural resource potential of Deccan Traps then? So definitely the most important one you can talk about black soil. So how exactly black soil is derived from here? This entire region is known for black soil. Wherever there are Deccan Traps, most importantly Maharashtra, it is known for black soil. Why? the basaltic magma over a period of time, it has undergone weathering and it has got converted into black soil. The black color is due to the presence of a particular mineral, that is titaniferous magnetite. It is titaniferous magnetite. Which gives the color of black to black soil. That is derived from basaltic magma. And this black soil is known very widely for the cultivation of cotton. So widely, so useful it is for cotton cultivation. This is called as black cotton soil itself. Isko black cotton soil hi bolte hain. Other than cotton, you can also grow sugar cane. It is very useful. वहाँ पर महाराष्ट्र में बहुत जगह में sugar cane हो रहे. But even though sugar cane requires a very high amount of water, you can grow well, provided you supply water. So इसके चक्कर में वहाँ पर ground water खत्म हो रहा है ना. That is also due to black soil. Sugar cane, and also for tobacco cultivation, it is very useful, as well as oil seeds. Sunflower and various other oil seeds, they are known for here. It is very, very rich in terms of this nutrients required for the growth of these crops. So that is major one. Major contribution is black soil. इसके अलावा और क्या लिख सकते हैं? Other than black soil, what are the other natural resource potential of Deccan Traps? Water resource, particularly freshwater resource in terms of freshwater aquifer. Okay, यहाँ पर आपको you have to open your mind and try to think. जहाँ पर limited content है, try to think from थोड़ा सा diverse point of view. Water resource. See, the question specifically says natural resource. It doesn't talk about mineral resource. You can talk about water resource. You can talk about wind energy, solar energy, right? ये सारा natural resource ही है. Yes. So you should not restrict yourself to mineral resource. Fine. सारा लेके आओ. That is how you have to write the answer. That is how you write the answer in economics, geography, and get marks. You should not limit yourself only to what you have studied. Okay, how it is an important source of water resource? Because black soil is known for high porosity, but very less permeability. Permeability कम है, porosity ज़्यादा है. That means it is a very good aquifer. It has a very good potential for holding on to the water. थोड़ा सा dry है, but जितना भी पानी आएगा उसको पकड़ के रखेगा, right? It is known for its good water reserves. That is also natural potential. And it is also very useful for tank irrigation. Because hard plateau rock है, उसके ऊपर basaltic lava layer है, it makes it very useful for tank irrigation. Traditionally यहाँ पर tank irrigation is followed. So now because of the cultivation of sugarcane, they have started to grow well irrigation, है ना, बहुत ज़्यादा पानी चाहिए, which is not sustainable. Because of which the entire eastern part of Maharashtra is facing water crisis. है ना, Vidarbha is facing water crisis because of that. So it is known for tank irrigation. Then और क्या हो सकता है? Because of the hard plateau, hardened surface, it is also known for the waterfalls as well as the rivers which are flowing through. They have a very high potential for hydropower. है ना? So there is a very high potential for hydropower because it's not just the plateau region of the eastern side. There is also some part of this Deccan Traps which are towards the Western Ghats. ये देखो यहाँ तक है, Western Ghats तक है. And Western Ghats are known for rivers. There is a very high potential for hydropower, hydroelectric power. Is it natural? Hydropower, definitely it is natural. You need that potential. You cannot have hydropower everywhere. You need that potential for storing that water at the high level. Then only you can have that. Natural advantage है. कुछ जगह में artificially बना सकते हैं, but यहाँ पर naturally advantage है. Okay, wherever there is a plateau region, wherever there is a steep topography, Deccan Traps are known for step-like topography, right? They are step-like topography. So there is a higher potential for hydropower. Then, of course, wind energy भी है. High elevated है. Elevated region, high plateau region, there is a high potential for wind generation. Okay, Maharashtra and northern Karnataka as well as Gujarat is known for their wind energy. One of the very high potential for wind energy. सोलार भी हो जाएगा डेफिनेटली. सोलार ही होगा और ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता है. सोलार इसलिए होगा बिकॉज ऑफ हाई इरेडियंस. देयर इज अ वेरी हाई इरेडियंस. Okay, the solar energy, the solar overall insolation levels. So the land gets heated up very easily, because of which there is a very high solar energy potential. And in many parts of this Maharashtra and Western Ghats region, there is also geothermal energy. Okay, there are many hot springs because of these the rock formations. They have resulted in the formation of some geothermal belts. Okay, Maharashtra में है बहुत सारा hot springs है. So there is a potential for geothermal energy here. Even if you're writing one line, that is going to be sufficient. जहाँ पर content नहीं है तो यही लिखना पड़ेगा ना. You have to write. Okay. But sincerely, like, there is a less potential for natural mineral resource as such, but other than that, there are few other resources which can be included as part of this Deccan Traps. Yes, you can mention. That is why there is a conclusion. You can write a conclusion, because the overall question talks about the discus. You can say about that overall mineral come hai belonging to exactly Deccan Trap formation. The mineral resources are less, but however, below the Deccan Trap formation, there are Archean and Darwa rocks, and that contain good number of minerals. वो conclusion में लिख सकते हो, है ना? In fact, many of these minerals, iron भी है, uranium भी है. Okay, जो Bhima Basin comes under Deccan Traps region only. Northern Karnataka, Gogi mines, uranium mines है one of the largest. So that comes under Bhima Basin. That is exactly here in this region only. Fine. But the rock formation, it is not belonging to Deccan Traps, but it is in that particular region. You can write in the conclusion. Overall mineral resource potential is less, which is of Deccan Traps, but other rock formations in the same region contain good number of minerals. So slightly tricky. So थोड़ा सा मैप वगैरह दिखा के हैंडल करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है? So next question. I think this is one of the easy and predictable. Most of the current affairs material you would have read about this, about wind energy, and this was also in news because of our commitment to Paris. And so we are trying to increase the overall the renewable source of energy, and wind is one of the largest. Okay, after solar. So examine the potential of wind energy in India. This is totally natural resource based question. Okay, but you can make use of current affairs. This is just one example of the news which I have given here. ऐसे बहुत सारा news articles आपको मिलेगा related to wind energy. There are many news articles related to that. But the point is here, they are not asking anything from the current affairs. तो totally static type ही लगेगा. You should know some values. Overall potential कौन कौन सा state में ज़्यादा है? which are the states in terms of offshore, onshore. ऐसे थोड़ा सा technical word use किया तो अच्छा रहेगा, ठीक है? So news में तो definitely था. This topic was definitely in news. And were there any previous questions related to this? So almost slightly similar, not exactly on the wind energy. You can see 2020 there was a question on solar energy, almost in a similar manner. Okay, India has immense potential for solar energy, though there are regional variation for this development. देखो exactly almost similar है wind energy का. There is a potential of wind energy, but the reason for its limited spatial spread. It is talking about the spatial spread only. Okay, 2013 there was a question on the atomic energy. Okay, availability of raw material required for the generation of atomic energy in India as well as the world. Talking about atomic energy. Here it is about wind energy. Okay, so there was a question, previous question to tha related, but not exactly on the wind energy. The overall structure for this question include, you should start with a brief introduction about wind energy, then come to the overall potential in India, because examine the potential of wind energy in India. This is the first part, potential in India. Explain the reasons for limited spatial spread. Okay, reasons for limited spatial spread, because wind energy is not everywhere, har jagah se you cannot install and extract it profitably. So it's limited spatial spread. What are the reasons? And then the last one is conclusion. So briefly you can talk about, because we are talking about some issues related to this. We are bringing the discussion on the wind energy. So definitely we can write a conclusion here. So overall, wind energy introduction, you don't have to define wind energy. वो तो बहुत ऐसे हो जाएगा. So please don't define such things. So wind energy, you can talk about the importance. So what is the importance of wind energy? It is a renewable source of energy. In the context of a developing country like India, which has a huge potential for wind energy, as well as there is a requirement for domestic source of energy. Wind energy is one of the best alternative for our fossil fuels. Okay, one way it is increasing the pollution level, and another way it is also a cost on exchequer and a huge import bill. वो सारा reduce करने के लिए best answer is renewable source of energy, and India being a huge having a huge potential, wind energy is one of the best alternatives. You can start with in the introduction. So what is the overall potential of India in terms of wind energy? Overall potential क्या है? So presently India has the total capacity of 40 gigawatts of installed capacity. See, energy composition तो आपको पता ही होना चाहिए. You have to. UPSC में एक बार direct question आया था, what is the energy composition, what is the different contribution of different source of energy. Okay, paper 3 में एक बार question आया था, and whether we are achieving our targets or not, ऐसे question था. You should know which source of energy is providing which how much amount of electricity. Energy जो हमारा पूरा supply है, what is the source. Composition तो please try to see the latest one for your exam. Okay, for the next mains or prelims, whenever you're preparing, try to go through this. What is the present composition? Wind energy, presently it is 40 gigawatts of total installed capacity, and it accounts for 10% of total energy consumption in India. मतलब energy production in India. It is from wind energy. So सबसे ज़्यादा कौन सा है? Coal, thermal power plants, जो coal based thermal power plants का ही सबसे ज़्यादा है. Then next comes solar energy. Okay, earlier wind was leading, now solar is leading. Solar के बाद में आता है hydropower, large hydropower, now presently considered as part of renewable source. Okay, so then comes wind. It's at 10%. So overall, India has a huge potential at the world level. We are in the 4th position in terms of the installed capacity. Installed capacity के हिसाब से जो present 40 gigawatts of installed capacity है. So based on that, we are in 4th position in the world. So now overall, in terms of distribution, of course you need to write a map here. Map will add value to your answer. You can clearly write a map and show the different states which are important in terms of distribution. Overall, wind energy can be classified into onshore and offshore. Onshore is on the land, okay, on the land, and offshore is over the ocean. The onshore potential of wind energy, potential I'm talking about, maximum कितना कर सकते हैं. On the land, we can talk about the overall potential to be around 302 gigawatts. 302 gigawatts at 100 meters of height. 302 gigawatts at 100 meters of height. Because near to the surface, you cannot install. Wind speed come here because of friction. Because of friction with the land, the wind speed will be lesser. We have higher potential at the higher altitude. You need to go to that at least 100 meters. वहाँ पर maximum मिलेगा. And if you can go to 120 meters of altitude, there the wind potential become 695 gigawatts. You can see within 20 meters of difference, you're almost doubling your overall capacity. That is India's wind energy potential. Okay, so at 100 meters, it is 302 gigawatts. At 120 meters, it is 625 gigawatts, 695 gigawatts. And this overall potential in terms of onshore, okay, onshore potential is spread and distributed in 7 different states. 7 states which covers a maximum, which covers 95% of India's wind energy potential. Okay, सबसे ज़्यादा है कि यहाँ पर जो दिया है, this is just for our reference, the installed capacity है. यहाँ पर percentage जो दिया है ना, this is installed capacity, and what we need is overall potential. So सबसे highest potential is Gujarat, then comes Tamil Nadu, then Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh. These are 7 states. हो गया? Okay, ऊपर से आ जाओ. राजस्थान, गुजरात, मध्य प्रदेश एंड महाराष्ट्र, चारों कंटिन्यूस है. तो फिर नीचे आएगा कर्नाटका, आंध्र प्रदेश एंड तमिलनाडु, 3 कंटिन्यूस है. दिस 7 states account for maximum 95% of wind energy in India. 95% of wind potential is in 7 states only. So this is in terms of onshore. Offshore total capacity is 127 gigawatts. Okay, total capacity is 127 gigawatts. Offshore wind energy talks about installing wind field along the continental shelf. You cannot install them on the deep ocean, तो बहुत नीचे चला जाता है ना. Continental shelf में you can install them, and India has a offshore wind energy potential of 127 gigawatts. ठीक है, because we have a very huge coastline, so there is a very high potential for that. This is in terms of potential. Okay, potential के ऊपर specifically question आए हैं. You have to talk about the distribution and in which area there is more, which area there is less. And you can see that as per this, the overall wind energy is concentrated in few regions. 7 states onshore and along the offshore, it's there. So why? What is the reason behind the limited spatial spread? What are the reasons here? Okay, so here in terms of both the natural potential as well as the installed capacity we can talk. You can talk about both the natural potential. Natural potential भी क्यों कम है दूसरी जगह में, and installed capacity भी क्यों कम है. Fine. So first of all, why there is higher potential only in these regions? Flow of rain. Okay, the wind speed is the most important factor. Wind speed is not uniform everywhere. The wind speed is higher in these particular states, okay, where there is a high elevated land, plateau region, mountainous region, okay, so or in terms of the interior locations, है ना, जहाँ पर ज़्यादा heat up होगा, it attracts the winds. So because of all these factors, both geographical factors as well as the overall the wind energy का जो flow है, atmospheric factors हो जाएगा. So all of these decide how much of wind speed is there. That is very important. You cannot install the turbines everywhere. First one is wind speed. Second one is density of wind. Okay, जितना ज़्यादा dense रहता है उतना easy रहेगा. Okay, that is why you cannot install much taller. ऊपर जाते जाते increase नहीं होगा, वो light होते जाएगा. The winds become lighter and then the potential decreases. Why we talk more about offshore wind energy? Because the air is moist and dense over there. It has higher potential than the onshore. Density, that is also not uniform everywhere. In these 7 states, they are more concentrated. And because of the elevation difference, some of them are elevated, some of them are very low lying area में तो ज़्यादा winds नहीं आएगा. So because of all these factors, there is a natural variation. What about the installed capacity? Even with this amount of natural availability, not every state was able to make use of it. The installed capacity itself is very less in few of the states in spite of having higher potential. Why? So first, it requires huge capital. The initial cost of installment is very high in case of wind. The initial cost of installment. Second, for wind turbines, specifically if you have to install on land, you have to acquire land. Okay, land acquisition further increases the cost. And now in the coming days of economic development, there is a scarcity of land and the land prices are too costly. That makes the entire project unviable. Okay, so because of land acquisition, we need to acquire the land. And overall the policy also, the policy of the government. It is said that one of the reasons why wind energy has become slightly costly because of the tariff, the new tariff mechanism. The earlier tariff mechanism was said to be slightly cheaper and the present tariff mechanism is said to be higher cost. Overall tariff available is costlier. So because of which it is not very profitable. Okay, not many are purchasing. Okay, discounts are not coming forward to purchasing. And in case of offshore, even though there is a higher potential, but difficulties in installation. Okay, so it is difficult to install these wind turbines on the offshore. पानी में install करना इतना easy नहीं है. And second, after installing, there are more other difficulties in terms of extraction of the power. You have to lay these underwater cables and connect it with the grid over there. So that adds on to the transmission cost. Fluctuating wind flow is also another factor. You know, जो naturally available क्यों कम है. So these are the reasons for limited spatial spread. That means it is concentrated in few regions. Okay, it is concentrated in few regions, why it is not concentrated in other regions, and even in those regions why it is not very well utilized. दोनों का बात कर सकता है यहाँ पर. And conclusion, definitely you can talk about conclusion here. So conclusion here, it is, you can bring our commitments to Paris INDC, Paris Agreement INDC के हिसाब से we have committed that. So we are going to reduce our fossil fuel consumption, we are going to reduce our greenhouse gas emission, and wind energy is the best alternative. Okay, we have so much of potential. Of course, we are giving more importance to solar energy, वो भी तो चाहिए. Okay, definitely it is going to contribute, and wind energy में जितना focus देना है उतना तो नहीं दिया. For example, we don't have renewable energy certificates for wind energy specifically. Solar energy के लिए है ना. And even the overall the consumption of the wind energy in terms of procurement, there is not much of specific targets for discoms. So the RPO, renewable purchase obligation, is not specific to wind energy the way it is for solar energy. It can be done. Okay, so we can bring that in the conclusion. Slightly current related, slightly application oriented. It is not completely static. You have to think and write the answer. So that is why it is static applied. Okay, with current affairs, of course. No. So Western Ghats would not act as a barrier as such, because the winds anyway rise and descend. It will not be able to completely block the winds because they are not so tall. The winds will rise and descend. That's why even in the along the very eastern part of this Western Ghats, there is a higher wind potential. In many parts of this interior, okay, interior Maharashtra, interior Karnataka, this entire region, they are known for its wind potential. Hey, there is not a limitation here. So what are the forces? Question number 14, 15 markers. What are the forces that influence ocean currents and describe the role in fishing industry in the world? So there is no necessity for it to have any current news, because ये तो बहुत core topic है oceanography का. So it is one of the very important topic of the physical geography, and already 2 times the question have been asked on ocean currents. And 2015 almost same question. You see 15 wala question dekho. Explain the factors responsible for the origin of ocean current. That is, what is forces that influence the ocean currents. Same hai. Second part देखो, how do they influence the regional climate, fishing and navigation. यहाँ पर climate और navigation हटा दो, second part बन गया. Okay, as it is 2015 वाला question है. In 2019 there was also another question on how do ocean currents and water mass differ in their impact on the marine life and coastal environment. आधा part तो यहीं से भी है. The impact of ocean current on the marine life, that is what is impact on the fishing. Fine, it is totally repeat. So as such specifically कोई news में नहीं था, but it was not required because this is totally static and basic part of your geography. Question number 14. What are the forces that influence ocean currents? Describe the role in fishing industry in the world. Introduce with what is ocean currents. Okay, you can define ocean currents. And the forces which influencing the ocean currents, there is enough scope for it. You can draw a world map, and in a single world map you can show both the forces as well as the different regions of fishing. दोनों दिखा सकते हो. Okay, definitely it will be appreciated if you have practiced world map, which I would always suggest. Okay, please practice writing world map. It is going to be useful. And the third part should talk about the role of ocean currents in fishing industry. So first of all, what are ocean currents? Ocean currents क्या होता है? The general movement of surface water in a specific direction over a long distance. Okay, general movement of ocean surface water, because traditionally we call this the surface ocean currents as the ocean currents, because deep water currents को ocean currents नहीं बुलाते. They are called as part of thermohaline circulation. When we talk about the ocean currents, that mainly refers to surface waters. So within the different parts of the ocean, we constantly have this movement of water from tropical region to polar region, from polar region to tropical region. It is continuously moving in a specific direction throughout the world. It's there in Atlantic Ocean. It's there in Pacific Ocean. Okay, you can see it's there in Pacific Ocean. As well as in Indian Ocean. It's there everywhere. So in every part of the ocean, there is a continuous movement of surface water from one direction to another. In a specific direction, in a specific location, you will find them. There are two types of ocean currents: warm ocean current, cold ocean current. Warm is hotter, cold is colder. So, but how do we decide based on that? There is no specific temperature to decide whether it is a warm current or cold current. It all depends upon the surrounding water. Okay, for example, let me just tell you. So here we have the North Atlantic drift. Same North Atlantic drift starts to blow, part of it starts to blow south. Usko bolte cold current. The same part of it starts to move north. It is what is warm current. Okay, sir? Because compared to the surrounding water, this is warm. Compared to the surrounding water, this is cold. And it's based on the comparative temperature difference. So that is a brief introduction. That would be sufficient. Now, what are the forces which influence the ocean currents? There are some primary forces and some secondary forces. Primary forces, the forces which cause the ocean water to move. Usko motion mein jo rakhta hai, that is what is primary forces. Okay, the most primary force is wind as well as solar energy. Wind as well as solar energy. How? So wherever the water is continuously getting heated up by the solar energy, it becomes lighter. Where there is not much of heat and heating up and the temperature is not high, it becomes slightly denser. Now when the winds are continuously blowing over such water, they are pushed away from its origin. Most common, most powerful agent hai winds. Okay, so you can see within the trade wind belt, the winds push these equatorial waters from west to east in this direction. That caused the generation of north equatorial current and south equatorial current. It is driven by the trade winds. And this water, as it comes here, it turns totally towards the right side under the influence of westerlies. The westerlies are there. Westerlies are the ones which is pushing toward the higher latitudes, right? Winds are the most common factor. The first factor is winds. Okay, among the primary factors, winds are the first one. Then comes sunlight due to the heating and cooling. Then comes Coriolis force also. So this North Atlantic drift coming towards this direction, it turns totally towards the right. It turns totally towards the right under the influence of Coriolis force. है ना? The rotation of Earth. And here it turns totally towards the left. In the Southern Atlantic Ocean, it turns totally towards the left. That is also due to Coriolis force. Earth rotation through Coriolis force has an impact. Other than this, gravity also influences the motion of ocean currents. Why the dense water would sink and the light water will remain? Because of gravity. Okay, light water to upar hi rehta hai, dense water will sink, and the ocean currents are driven by the difference in density. Fine. Other than this, the secondary forces, secondary factors, the differences in temperature from one region to another, differences in salinity from one region to another, causes the movement. For example, the ocean currents which are moving from equatorial region towards the polar region, they are driven by the temperature difference between equatorial and polar region. And so is the cold water which is coming from polar region to equator. They're trying to balance out that difference of temperature as well as in difference in salinity from light water to heavier, okay, heavier to lighter. So in wherever there is a heavier water, it causes the sinking down, downwelling. Wherever there is a lighter water, there is trigger for upwelling. Fine. So they are all driven by these factors. The role of these ocean currents in fishing sector, fishing industry. What is the role? Yes, that is the most important thing which you have to give here. wherever there is a merging of warm and cold ocean currents in different parts of the world, it provides best condition for the growth of fish. Okay, the fishing industry is large and flourished in those regions wherever there is a meeting of warm and cold ocean currents. Okay, here you can definitely show it on the map along with examples. So first of all, why it provides the best condition for the fishing grounds? Planktons grow very well in this region. Can you see in North Atlantic Ocean there is a Gulf Stream. Okay, this is the Gulf Stream merging with cold Labrador Current in this part of Newfoundland Island. So this is one of the largest fishing bank called as Georges Bank and Grand Bank. दोनों है यहाँ पर, Grand Bank and Georges Bank. One of the largest. Of course यहाँ पर continental shelf भी wider है, but the merging of cold and warm ocean currents, they are the factor which helps in growth of planktons to a great extent. Wherever there is a higher plankton growth, higher potential for fish growth. One of the largest fishing bank in the world. Okay, same here near to Japan. The Kuroshio current meets with Oyashio current. The warm and cold currents are meeting. Again, another important, okay, large fishing bank. Here, polar regions are anyway cold. There are cold waters. The warm water is brought by North Atlantic drift. The warm water is getting mixed with the cold water. Again here, one of the largest fishing ground, the entire Western Europe. Fine. From Portugal till Norway, this entire coast is very known for fishing. Wherever there is a meeting, same here with the western coast. The cold waters, the warm waters of Alaska current is getting mixed with the cold water from the polar region. Another best known site along the western coast of North America. The first part is wherever there is a mixing of warm and cold ocean currents. You have to show it on the map, and you have to give the examples of these ocean currents. Okay, along with the region. That creates best condition, favorable condition for the growth of planktons, and wherever there is a growth of plankton, there is a growth of fish. Second, wherever there is cold water upwelling. Cold upwelling. What is upwelling? The water rises from the bottom. Wherever the water is rising from the bottom, it brings the nutrients from the bottom. Okay, all the nutrients, dead decaying organic matter which is there, just sink to the bottom, all of them are brought to the surface. So that is more active in the regions of cold ocean currents. Cold ocean currents जहाँ पर है best suited Peru or Humboldt current. It brings cold water which is very rich in nutrient, one of the largest fishing bank in the world. Same goes with Californian current, cold Californian current. Then Benguela current. Wherever there are cold ocean currents, they are known for cold water upwelling, and that is best known location for fishing. It supports the growth of fish through the nutrients brought from the bottom. This is what is suppressed during El Nino, right? El Nino में क्या होता है? ये upwelling खत्म हो जाएगा, fish खत्म हो जाएगा, पूरा drought, dry conditions. बारिश तो आएगा, but it is not productive for them. The entire fishing industry collapses for Peru, Chile. So other than this, any other role of ocean currents in fishing industry? Ocean currents help in distribution of nutrients, distribution of water temperature from one region to another. है ना? It helps in spreading of nutrients, spreading of the conditions favorable for the growth of the planktons. Even though it is concentrated in few of the regions where they meet, the distribution of warm and cold waters, distribution of salinity helps in creating the moderate conditions favorable for the growth of life. Otherwise, though, these will be limited only to particular regions. They help in redistribution of the nutrients across different parts of the ocean. Fine. इतना तो हो जाएगा आपका पूरा. इतना भी लिख सकते हैं तो बढ़िया है. Along with the map, please remember you have to draw a map here, world map. Question number 15. This is also slightly expected ही है, industry के ऊपर usually question होता है, but this time it was on rubber industry which was not a traditional core area of industry covered in geography. Usually तो इतना डिटेल में कवर नहीं होता है. Describing the distribution of rubber producing countries indicate the major environmental issues faced by them. So this was not in news. ज़्यादा कुछ न्यूज़ में नहीं था rubber industry very specifically, and there was no previous question on rubber specifically. There were few questions on industry. Industry definitely there would be a question. एक question तो होता है. We have questions on the iron and steel industry 2-3 times. 2-3 बार question आ चुका है. Okay, industry के ऊपर definitely you can answer. Food processing industry के ऊपर question था, and even regional resource management, रिसोर्स मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के ऊपर भी क्वेश्चन था. इंडस्ट्री के ऊपर तो क्वेश्चन होगा ही होगा, बट रबर इंडस्ट्री के ऊपर स्पेसिफिकली क्वेश्चन आए हैं. However, the scope of the question is not very specific. They are not asking what are the raw material used in rubber industry. Okay, so you just have to know the conditions required for growing rubber, because that is where you will find rubber industry, rubber producing countries, है ना, rubber industry वहीं पे होगा. So with that conditions you can manage the answer if you know the overall issues caused by such kind of industries which are in the tropical region, because rubber is a majorly tropical crop. It is one of the plantation crops. Plantation crop बोलते हैं उसको. इंडिया में कहाँ पर मिलता है? Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu along the southern parts of Western Ghats. Okay, if you have the slight idea of rubber growing condition, you can manage with it. The question is not very technical. Okay, that makes it not very difficult. So what is the overall structure? Introduce the answer with rubber industry and then overall distribution, because you have to describe the distribution. So wherever you're talking about describing the particular distribution, definitely there is a scope for writing world map. यहाँ पर world map लिख सकते हो. You can show, you can draw few of the countries and just mark few of the regions where there is rubber growing. है ना? Distribution हो गया. And the third part, indicate the major environmental issues faced by them. The question just asks what are the environmental issues. The question is not asking what are the solution. इसको कैसे tackle करना है, ये सब नहीं लिखना है. First part is introduce the rubber industry. Second part is distribution. Third part is environmental issues associated with the rubber industry. And then in the conclusion, definitely you can write what steps needed to be taken or why we should work towards reducing the issues associated with the rubber industry. Introduction. Rubber industry, why it is a very important industry. It is used in most of the modern manufacturing process. From strategic purpose, even for strategic purpose के लिए भी, defense में भी, industrial setup में भी, machineries में भी, बहुत जगह में rubber is required. It is one of the very essential raw material for the industrial growth of a country. Right? So you can start with this about the overall significance. Distribution. Okay, talking about the distribution, what are the countries which are known for producing rubber? So ठीक है, you might not have studied specifically about the distribution of rubber across the world, but you would definitely have studied about the conditions required for growing rubber, which is part of your agriculture. Plantation crop है. So what are the conditions required for growing rubber? It requires a high temperature. It requires a very high temperature. Okay, beyond 25 to 35 degrees Celsius होना चाहिए. There only you can grow rubber. Precipitation is very high precipitation. Okay, beyond 200 centimeters of precipitation. So that is available in the tropical waters, tropical regions. And even the overall conditions of high humidity. So all of these are coinciding only in the tropical regions. So ये कहाँ पर है? So सुना भी होगा, कहाँ से आते हैं major rubber? Southeast Asia. Natural conditions भी favorable है वहाँ पर. High temperature, high precipitation, है ना? So Southeast Asia, particularly Malaysia, Indonesia. Okay, Malaysia, Indonesia, and then Thailand. And some parts of India. India में कहाँ पर है? कौन सी state है? Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Just the lower part of Western Ghats. Okay, not the upper part of Western Ghats. Okay, India हो गया, and then majorly Brazil, the rainforests. Okay, other than that, we also have Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and just few parts of India, and then Brazil. We are talking about natural rubber producing countries. South Africa, not very well developed, It requires a proper industrial setup, proper plantation setup. It is not just developed. It can be grown over there. Conditions are favorable. Yes. Okay. So I'm talking about natural rubber. Natural rubber is extracted from the rubber tree. Okay. So continuously you can extract the rubber from rubber tree. But artificial rubber is also another important source, because the question talks about rubber producing countries. How exactly, whether it is natural or artificial, it is not given here. There are a few countries which are known for artificial rubber production. The largest one is China. China is the largest producer of artificial synthetic rubber, followed by USA. You can definitely mark this, है ना, दोनों अलग अलग पैटर्न में लिखो. So यहाँ पर लिखा था, then फिर यहाँ पर होगा डॉट 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 डॉट. This is what is artificial rubber. This is artificial rubber. Then we have South Korea as well as Japan. Okay, यहाँ पर जो भी लिखा है, these are natural rubber. Overall, a map along with the distribution would definitely be required here. So now, what are the environmental issues faced by rubber producing countries or the overall rubber industry? So most important issue, they are all in tropical rainforests. Most of the regions are rainforest. So to have this rubber plantation, you have to cut down the forest. It results in deforestation. Okay, large scale deforestation is one of the most important issue associated with rubber production. Then loss of biodiversity because of that. The tropical rainforests are known for its biodiversity, rich biodiversity of flora as well as fauna. Both of them are lost. Okay, rubber plantation के वजह से. Then huge quantity of pollution, air pollution, huge quantity of air pollutants released by this rubber processing industry. Water pollution, it requires huge quantity of water. ये भी लिखेंगे अभी. So but that water gets polluted. Now that water will pollute the other surrounding water reserves. Okay, water pollution, fine, as well as it is high water intense activity. Okay, water intense, कभी कभी natural बारिश हो जाएगा, but processing करते करते you need more amount of water for processing that natural rubber. It is very water intensive activity. And carbon dioxide release. There's huge quantity of carbon dioxide sequestered by these equatorial rainforest. You have to cut down, and then that is released into the forest. And even the processing of this rubber also releases a good amount of carbon dioxide. Fine. Okay. These are the major issues associated with the एक line elaborate करना है. So then comes conclusion. Conclusion में see natural rubber producing countries जो भी है, whatever the natural rubber producing countries, it is a good source of income, good source of employment, and as well as it is not as polluting as that of artificial rubber. Synthetic rubber is not, it is very polluting. Natural rubber production is not that polluting. Through sustainable practice, because we cannot say that rubber production कम करना है, क्योंकि बहुत strategic है. It is very much required for the entire economy. It is used in various different sectors. But we should move towards natural rubber production. There is a huge potential. Africa में भी potential है. So wherever there is a potential, we need to grow. We need to move towards producing natural rubber rather than going for synthetic rubber, which is very highly polluting. Yes, we are testing that, but that's because we are currently we are able to grow the rubber only in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, lower part of Western Ghats. Okay, the conditions are very similar in Assam. Northeast में तो similar है, but there the winters are slightly cooler. Normal natural rubber species will not survive over there. इसलिए we are trying to introduce some GM, genetically modified. Of course, naturally के लिए वो include कर सकते हैं, conclusion में कर सकते हैं. Question number 16. Mention the significance of straits and isthmus in international trade. So I'm sure you wouldn't have read about this specifically in any part of geography as such. Generally ऐसे प्रीलिम्स में मैपिंग करते हुए किया होगा, राइट? सो दैट इज वेयर द क्वेश्चन इज फ्रॉम. So last year एक क्वेश्चन आया था, what are the important volcanic eruptions which has happened in the recent time? That is also prelims related here. है ना, UPSC is trying to mix the pattern, है ना, right? ठीक है, but it's not that difficult question. It's not that difficult. You should just understand the meaning of isthmus and the strait, and most of the famous isthmus and strait तो आप लोगों ने पढ़ा ही होगा prelims के टाइम में, तो मैपिंग करवा ही होगा. So using that you can definitely write the answer. And many of them were currently in news. 2 साल पहले सुएज कैनल में पूरा शिप अटक गया था. It blocked the entire international trade. So that time it was in news. And we also know about the frequent issue of South China Sea because of Strait of Malacca, right? And the overall significance of Panama Canal, ये सब तो पता ही है generally, right? So here comes the part, how do you frame the answer? है ना, तो कंटेंट तो ऑलमोस्ट सबको पता ही है, exactly कैसे फ्रेम करोगे ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. So there is no previous question in this part. There is nothing. This was the first time it was asked. You start with the introduction of what is a strait, what is a isthmus, giving few examples, just few examples. Okay, first of all, what is a strait? Yes, strait is basically a narrow water body which connects two large water bodies. Okay, strait is basically a narrow water body which connects two large water bodies. So for example, most famous strait, the Strait of Malacca. Okay, this is what is Strait of Malacca. It connects Indian Ocean with South China Sea. It connects Indian Ocean with South China Sea. Other than this, the Strait of Bab el-Mandab. It connects Red Sea with the Gulf of Oman. Sorry, Gulf of okay, the Red Sea with Gulf of Yemen. Sorry, Gulf of Aden. This is Gulf of Aden. Red Sea with Gulf of Aden. Okay, this is Hormuz Strait. Hormuz Strait with the Persian Gulf with Gulf of Oman. Okay, this is Strait of Gibraltar, connecting Mediterranean Sea with Atlantic Ocean. So basically it's a very narrow water body, connects two larger water bodies. So what is isthmus? It is the opposite version of strait, land version we can say. So where a very narrow patch of land connects to bigger land. For example, Isthmus of Panama. It connects South America and the rest of Central and North America. Fine. Any other famous isthmus? Isthmus of Kra, very good. You see, this is Isthmus of Kra, very narrow patch. It connects the northern part of Indochina with the southern part, Malaysia and Thailand. Then Sinai Peninsula, it's a peninsula. यहाँ पर जो part है, this part, this is also a isthmus. That is Isthmus of Suez. Isthmus of Suez. On Isthmus of Suez only we have constructed Suez Canal. So most famous, most recently news में है Isthmus of Perekop, which has separated Crimea from Ukraine. That is Isthmus of Perekop. ठीक है, strategic purpose है. So there are many isthmus. So basically isthmus is a narrow patch of land which separates two major land. Strait is a narrow patch of water which separates two major water bodies. In the same way, a strait separates two land. A strait connects two water bodies. Strait connects to water body. It also separates two land. Land portion को separate करता है. Right? For example, the Malacca Strait separates Malaysia and Indonesia. Okay, उसका other part भी है. At the same time, Isthmus also separates two water bodies. Okay, Isthmus of Panama separates Caribbean Sea from Pacific Ocean. है ना? Connects to land, separates two water bodies. That is what is isthmus. Connects to water bodies and separates land. That is what is strait. So start with the definition. So once you are in the definition, then come to the significance part, because the question is majorly about the significance only. Mention the significance of straits and isthmus in international trade. You just talk about the significance. Okay, that is the major part. और कुछ यहाँ पर बात करने का जरूरी नहीं है. You talk about the important straits, important isthmus with example. Important straits. Okay, so talk about the important straits. Important straits कौन सा है? You should start with Strait of Malacca definitely. And now which separates this the northern part and Indonesia, and it connects Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Indian Ocean and South China Sea is connected by the Strait of Malacca. So more than 50% of world cargo passes through this. It's a very narrow waters. Okay, so but still it connects the entire Pacific Ocean with Indian Ocean, and most of the countries of this entire Eastern Asia, they are dependent on this Strait of Malacca. That is why China is also eyeing to they capture this South China Sea. Right? Because most of the oil supply from here comes and it has to pass through this. Fine? So that is the importance of it. So other than this, we have the Strait of Hormuz. जो maximum oil supply जो बाहर आता है West Asia से, it has to pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Which countries are sitting here? Oman. इस साइड में एग्जैक्टली स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज में इस साइड से तो ईरान है, एंड नीचे से ओमान भी है, यूएई भी है. बोथ द कंट्रीज आर देयर. देन व्हाट अबाउट जिब्राल्टर, स्पेन, मोरक्को as well as UK. The actual location of Gibraltar is under the control of UK. Okay, this because it is very much important for their overall trade. Otherwise, so they have to go all the way around the way Vasco da Gama went. So it is a huge cost as well as time. So they have to pass through here. Fine. So it plays a huge important. मतलब उसका significance बताना है, कहाँ पर है, location कहाँ पर है. What is the importance of this? This is important for Europe, उनके लिए to connect with the Eastern countries. And here for these exports of the West Asia. West Asia's export जो भी होगा, it has to pass through Strait of Hormuz. Most of the oil supply to the world passes through this. And East Asian countries के लिए Strait of Malacca important है because most of their imports comes through this. Fine. So you can talk about this. And then what about Isthmus? Most importantly, we have Isthmus of Panama. Okay, Isthmus of Panama connects South America with Central and North America, through which we have constructed a canal. यहाँ पर एक canal बना दिया, that is Panama Canal. Panama Canal किसके लिए ज़्यादा beneficial है? USA. That is why it was constructed by USA only. वही लोग खुद बनाए हैं. Because it reduced the time required for them to travel from eastern coast to western coast. It takes a huge amount of money, fuel as well as time. बहुत late पहुंचेगा because most of the trade and the bulk goods has to be shipped, मतलब ship से ही लेके जाना है. So that reduced. That's why the USA constructed this Panama Canal. Second, Suez Canal. For most of the European countries, Suez Canal is the lifeline. For all the goods which comes from Asia, so it has to pass through Suez Canal. Last year तो ऐसे बंद हो गया था, so one of the ship got stuck. कौन सा था? Evergiven. Okay, Evergreen was the content, मतलब overall hand company का नाम था. Ship का नाम Evergiven. So that got stuck for 6 days. Can you imagine 6 days? And the entire overall, it was acting like पूरा अभी war शुरू होने वाला है. Because it controlled the entire fuel supply. Fuel जो West Asia से आता है पूरा इसी से ही होना है. It has to pass through that. It was acting like a choking point. Fine. So these are two important which are currently used. Other than that, I told you about Isthmus of Perekop, which was strategically used. है ना? तो Isthmus of Perekop is basically यहाँ पर जो land है Crimea, which is separated from the rest of Ukraine. Okay, this is Isthmus of Perekop. This part. So Crimea was annexed by Russia. At that point of time, this entire the Crimean Peninsula, their shortage of fresh water. यहाँ पर fresh water का बहुत shortage है. Earlier Ukraine used to supply through canal. अभी canal बंद कर दिया. At the Isthmus of Perekop. ठीक है, अभी तो और war चल रहा है. So other than that, we have Isthmus of Kra. So After understanding the importance of Malacca Strait, which is slightly longer, the Thailand is planning to construct a canal here through passing through Isthmus of Kra. It is still under plan, project hai. If it is constructed, definitely it will reduce the time as well as cost. Okay, and it is going to be good economic opportunity for Thailand. So it is a bypass from the Strait of Malacca. And if at all, if any such thing happen, जैसे Suez Canal में हुआ था, यहाँ पर भी हो सकता है, in an alternative route. Fine. So that is the important significance. And in the conclusion, you can definitely write, it is not always beneficiary, it is also a threat to the global trade as well as security. These isthmus as well as straits, they act as a choke points, जहाँ पर हम पूरा trade को बंद कर सकते हैं. Either there is a natural disaster or some kind of accident, that the way it happened in last year, or if there is any war. So it will cause the entire supply to stop, and many of the countries who are dependent upon the trade, they will be at the impact. Okay, uska, for example, India ka bhi, we are hugely dependent upon the oil imports. You know, so even the small variation in the oil price due to such kind of issues will cause a higher burden on our budget, right? So that's why it's not just benefits, it's not only helpful in connecting, it's also a threat. So that's why we need to develop more alternative routes and keep it ready. The last question, ये तो पूरा static है. So static as well as basic. Troposphere is a very significant atmospheric layer that determines weather process. How? So was it in news? There's no need for it to be in news. This is core part of geography. You know, troposphere में तो सब कुछ troposphere में ही चलता है. So was there any previous question? There was one previous question related to temperature inversion, even though it is not directly related, but this is also important phenomenon in the troposphere, which is weather related. Okay, एक बार question आया था, what do you understand by temperature inversion in meteorology and how does it affect the weather and habitats of a place? Overall related to the troposphere and weather. So now, what is the structure? Briefly introduce what is troposphere. Troposphere is the lowermost layer of Earth's atmosphere, okay, which is just above the surface. It extends up to 16 to 18 kilometers, 16 to 18 kilometers near to the equatorial region and 6 to 8 kilometers near to the polar regions. Okay, why there's so much of difference? Because of convection currents. The convection is very strong near to the equator, that causes it to rise. है ना, जिसके वजह से. Now, what are the important weather processes which are happening in the troposphere? इसके बारे में पहले बता के, then we can come to the factors. What are the important weather processes? What do you mean by weather? What is weather? The day-to-day changes in the atmosphere is weather. That happens only in the troposphere. No other layer of the Earth's atmosphere will experience weather. You won't experience cloud formation, you won't experience precipitation, cyclone, और दूसरे layer में कहीं पे भी नहीं होता है. All of them are limited to troposphere only. What are the important weather phenomena? Cyclones, fronts, temperate cyclones, okay, or even tornadoes, temperature inversion, right? Cloud formation, precipitation, thunderstorms, all of these which we see on day-to-day basis, all of them are limited to troposphere only. You have to bring, these are the different weather processes which are there in the troposphere. Now the factors. The factors of troposphere determining the weather process. What are the factors? Why it is limited to troposphere only? Most important factor, water vapor. 99% of the water vapor is limited to troposphere only. It is majorly present in the troposphere. In addition to that, dust particles, which is required for condensation. Overall process of condensation requires dust particle, that is what is hygroscopic nuclei. That is also present in troposphere only. Because of these two factors, wherever there is a water vapor in the atmosphere, wherever there is a hygroscopic nuclei in the atmosphere, that causes the formation of clouds. When the water vapor near to the surface, it gets evaporated through the process of evaporation. It becomes gaseous form. It takes the gaseous form and becomes part of the atmosphere, right? And then this evaporated part of the water vapor starts to condense when it cools below the dew point. Why it happens? Because the temperature decreases with increase in altitude. That is what we call it as normal lapse rate. The important characteristic of troposphere which enables the cloud formation is normal lapse rate. Temperature decreases with increase in altitude as the water vapor which is filled with the gas which is filled with the water vapor rises upwards. It cools down and condenses. As it condenses, it accumulates around dust particles and hygroscopic nuclei that result in the formation of clouds, cloud formation. Wherever there is a very strong heating, for example, equatorial region, tropical region, the strong heating causes strong buildup of clouds through convection process. It results in huge cloud formation, which is called as cumulonimbus clouds. Wherever there is cloud formation, there is precipitation. Cumulonimbus clouds causes very heavy precipitation. Okay? So what are the factors? You have to be slightly clear here, क्योंकि climatology पूरा बात कर सकते हैं यहाँ पर. Factors क्या क्या है? The presence of water vapor, presence of dust particles, and the decrease in the temperature as we move up in the altitude. That aids the condensation, cloud formation, precipitation, as well as convection. Troposphere experiences strong convection that causes the buildup of clouds. Huge cumulonimbus clouds are built here. Then planetary winds, they are also happening in the troposphere only. The difference in pressure from one latitude to another latitude results in the generation of planetary winds, trade winds, westerlies, polar easterlies. When these winds move from onshore to offshore, offshore to onshore, coming from ocean to land, it causes precipitation. Coming from land to ocean, it is totally dry, it will not cause precipitation, desert formation. Fine. Planetary winds play a huge important role in weather. Then air masses, which are also part of the troposphere. The movement of different air masses and the meeting of different air masses causes generation of fronts. Fronts result in the formation of temperate cyclones. Fine. And wherever there is a strong convection, strong heating of water near to the tropical region, it results in the formation of tropical cyclones. They are generated by the strong convection heating which is happening in troposphere only. And jet streams. Why there are jet streams? Due to the difference in the pressure gradients as we rise. As the altitude increases, there is a difference in the pressure gradient, and that causes the generation of jet streams. They are also there in the upper troposphere. So all of these are deciding our वेदर पैटर्न है ना. जितना ज़्यादा डाइवर्स करके जितना ज़्यादा पॉइंट्स लिखोगे उतना अच्छा. यहाँ पर एलोबरेट करने का ज़रूरी नहीं. यू हैव एनफ पॉइंट्स हियर. डोंट ट्राई टू एलोबरेट एंड बी स्पेसिफिक एंड बी ब्रीफ. तभी यहाँ पर ज़्यादा लिख सकते हो आप. दैट इज योर लास्ट क्वेश्चन. Coming to the sources, I told you I'll tell you about the sources. First question was simple and direct. G.C. Leong and NCERT would be sufficient here. You can easily answer using whatever you had studied from G.C. Leong and 11th standard NCERT. Full. Okay, full marks मिलेगा. Full marks मतलब maximum 6.5 out of 10. ठीक है. So color coded weather warning is totally from current affairs. न्यूज़पेपर करंट अफेयर से ही मिलेगा ऐसे वाला क्वेश्चन. सो सेलेक्टिवली यू हैव टू डिसाइड, पर्टिकुलरली दोज टॉपिक्स विच यू सी फ्रॉम जियोफिजिकल फिनोमेना. आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू साइक्लोन, अर्थक्वेक, वॉल्केनिज्म, है ना, सुनामी और द क्लाउड बर्स्ट और the glacier melting. All of these, whenever you see something related to that in the news, please read about it, add it to your notes. Discuss the natural resource potential of Deccan Trap. It requires some advanced source. Advanced source here I would refer to, I would say, any kind of compilation, your class notes or any other material which you have read which goes beyond NCERTs. Okay, this is required, and here it doesn't mean that you have to directly write it from there. Just for wider understanding, you need this. And यहाँ पर तो Deccan Trap का क्वेश्चन से थोड़ा सा एडवांस सोर्स ही मिलेगा आपको. Otherwise, if you have studied current affairs thoroughly, you can build up the answer. थोड़ा बहुत build up हो जाएगा. But you have to make that exact differentiation between Deccan Trap and Deccan Plateau. थोड़ा सा advanced level में जाना है. Examine the potential of wind energy, some advanced source as well as newspaper current affairs, because जो usually जो NCERTs है वहाँ पर इतना wind energy के बारे में directly बात नहीं होते, and most of them data which is given in NCERT is not updated. This requires updated one. So this is totally static. What are the forces that influence the ocean currents and describe the role in fishing industry? NCERT 11th standard से हो जाएगा. And describing the distribution of rubber producing industry, definitely this requires some advanced sources, because you need to know about the conditions required for growing rubber. You know, normally it is not discussed. I guess it is not discussed in NCERT. And some of the important rubber producing countries, slightly थोड़ा सा in depth चाहिए. And significance of straits and isthmus, newspaper current affairs से काम चलेगा इससे. You just need to understand what is strait and isthmus and whatever the news you have heard. And troposphere is totally from NCERT. So important sources which we got, NCRT is must, and GC Liang will just add value. It will bring more clarity. And some advanced source. Here I would not recommend you to read Savindra Singh or not, it's up to you. But some kind of in-depth study, any of the material required, okay, where some in-depth study is there. In addition to that, newspaper, current affairs. Okay? And from overall analysis, my suggestion for geography answer. See, if the same pattern is going to repeat, definitely it is going to be scoring. But don't look for shortcuts. Please practice writing maps. Please practice writing maps, world map as well as India map. It is going to be really, really useful. थोड़ा बहुत basic practice कर लिया तो you can really write a good map. World map as well as India map बहुत अच्छे से लिख सकते हो. And second, try to remember examples and some facts. Okay, it is important while talking about the different factors and all. Examples लिखना बहुत जरूरी है. And third, don't try to write which is not required in the content. Indirect answer के लिए, indirect content के लिए यहाँ पर जगह नहीं है. Try to be specific and try to be direct. Diversity लेके आओ. Bring diversity of points, but they should be related to your answer. That makes it scoring. ठीक है? So this is all from my end. So if you have any other queries or doubts, you can mail to me at this mail ID. Fine. Any other thing? Okay. Thank you.